They say you always remember the moment your life changes, but no one ever tells you that the worst part isn't the moment itself, it's the silence that comes after, when you realize everything you thought was real never existed. She looked at me with that same smile she gave me the first time I served her at table 7. Except this time, it wasn't charming, it was cold, almost apologetic. I didn't mean to lead you on, she said softly, wrapping the silk robe around her like armor. It was just a silly bet. A stupid argument with my friends. I never thought you'd take it so seriously. I couldn't answer. My mouth was open, but nothing came out. My heart, my pride, whatever was left of my dignity, it had all collapsed into one massive, echoing silence in my chest. And she just stood there, watching me. Like she was waiting for me to laugh it off. Like I was supposed to understand that this kind of thing just happens in her world. But let me take you back. Before all that. Before her perfume was etched into my memory, before her name became a wound I couldn't close, before I forgot who I even was. My name's Daniel. I'm 33 years old, and until about 2 months ago, I was a waiter at a high-end restaurant downtown. The kind of place where people drop $300 on appetizers and complain about the temperature of the wine. I didn't mind it. The job wasn't glamorous, but it paid the rent, and I was good at it. I remembered faces, remembered how people liked their steak, remembered not to ask too many questions when a man came in with a woman who clearly wasn't his wife. And then she walked in. Her name was Evelyn. Evelyn Monroe. The kind of name that tastes like champagne when you say it out loud. She was beautiful, but not in that obvious, airbrushed way. No, there was something old Hollywood about her. Class. Poise. She wore this deep burgundy dress that night, her hair in soft waves, lips painted like she was born to ruin men. And God help me, I think she ruined me the second she looked up from her menu and caught my eyes. "Do you have any recommendations?" she asked. I could barely get the words out. The duck confit is, excellent." She smiled. "Then that's what I'll have. And bring me whatever red you think pairs best." I don't know if it was the way she said it, or the fact that she trusted me without knowing me, but something clicked in that moment. For the next hour and a half, I hovered near her table like a satellite caught in her orbit. She was dining alone, which felt unusual for someone like her. She didn't check her phone. Didn't act impatient. She just existed, fully and unapologetically, like the whole world was her living room. She came back 2 days later. Then again the next week. Sometimes alone, sometimes with friends. And every time she requested my section. Left big tips. Asked about my day. It wasn't long before my coworkers started teasing me. "She's got a thing for you, Danny boy." I laughed it off. Said she was just being nice. Rich people are like that, friendly in a distant, performative way. But deep down, a part of me hoped they were right. One night, about a month after I first met her, she lingered after closing. Everyone else had cleared out. I was wiping down tables, and she was sipping the last of her wine. "You always clean with such intensity," she said. I looked up, chuckling nervously. "Yeah, well. Someone's gotta keep this place from falling apart." She tilted her head. "Ever thought about doing something else?" I shrugged. "Once or twice. But dreams are expensive. And rent's due every month." She stood, walked over, and leaned against the table I was cleaning. I still remember the way the light hit her face, soft and golden, like she stepped out of some forgotten dream. "Come by my place tomorrow," she said suddenly. "I'm throwing a little gathering. Nothing fancy. Just people talking, drinking, laughing." I froze. "You want me to come to your house?" She laughed. "I don't bite, Daniel. It's just a party. I'd like you there." And just like that, I said yes. I didn't sleep that night. I kept going over every conversation we'd had, every smile she'd given me, every casual brush of her hand against mine when I refilled her glass. I didn't own a suit, but I ironed the nicest shirt I had, showed up with a bottle of wine I couldn't really afford, and rang her doorbell with a heart that was beating like a war drum. Her place was something else. Marble floors, glass chandeliers, walls full of art I couldn't pronounce. There were maybe 20 people there, all laughing, sipping cocktails with names I'd never heard of. But she found me. Took my hand. Introduced me like I was someone important. And when the guests thinned out and the music softened, she pulled me onto the balcony and kissed me like I was the only man left on earth. I stayed the night. And maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I should have known better. But in that moment, I let myself believe that this, whatever this was real. Until the morning came. Until her friends left. Until she turned to me, hair still messy from sleep, and dropped the bomb that shattered me. "It was just a silly argument," she said. "They said I could never go home with someone like you. I told them I could make anyone fall for me." She paused, like she was offering me a compliment. "And you were, sweet. Really. But that's all it ever was. A game." I stood there, still half-dressed, my world falling apart at my feet. And she just walked away. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know who I was anymore. I left without another word. Didn't even look back. But I never forgot. Because you don't just forget someone who used you like a puppet, who saw your heart as a challenge, not a gift. You don't forget the moment your hope turns into humiliation. And you sure as hell don't forget Evelyn Monroe. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I couldn't eat, couldn't think, couldn't even go to work without feeling like the walls were laughing at me. Everything reminded me of her, the smell of expensive perfume on passing strangers, the sight of wine glasses lined up on the counter, the sound of heels clicking against the marble floor. I was haunted, not by a ghost, but by a memory that wouldn't stop replaying itself in my head. Her voice. It was just a bet. That phrase felt like poison in my bloodstream. I quit the restaurant that week. I told my manager I needed something new, something different, but the truth was, I couldn't bear to see her again. I couldn't serve her another drink, pretend I didn't know the truth, and smile like it never happened. I wasn't built for that. I never was. I found work at a small cafe on the edge of town. It was quieter, simpler. No 5-star customers. No overpriced entrees. Just regular people who drank regular coffee and didn't play games with other people's hearts. And still, she stayed in my mind. I'd hear her laugh when I closed my eyes. I'd imagine her sipping red wine on her balcony, surrounded by people who had no idea how cruel she could be when she was bored. I told myself I hated her, and maybe I did. But hatred is still a connection, and what I truly needed was to forget. But forgetting is harder when the world insists on reminding you. 3 weeks after the night at her place, I saw her again. I was walking home after my shift, tired, trying to beat the rain, when a black car pulled up beside me. At first, I thought it was an Uber. I ignored it. But then the window rolled down. And there she was. Evelyn. "Daniel," she said, like we were old friends who'd lost touch. "Can we talk?" I froze. I could have kept walking. I could have told her to go to hell. But I didn't. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe I just wanted to understand. Maybe I was still too broken to say no. We went to a nearby park. Sat on a bench beneath a tree that had already begun to shed its leaves. She wore a black coat, her hair pulled back, no makeup this time. Just Evelyn. And even now, stripped of the glamour, she was still magnetic. "I owe you an apology," she began. I said nothing. She looked down at her hands. That night, the things I said, it was cruel. I know it was. And I'm sorry. Truly. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask her why. Why me? Why would she do that to someone who had done nothing but care? But instead, I said the only thing I could manage, "Why are you here?" She was quiet for a moment. Then, because I can't stop thinking about it. About you. About what I did. I shook my head. "You made your choice." "No," she said, turning toward me. "I made a mistake. A terrible one. I didn't think you'd matter to me. I didn't think I'd feel anything. But I do. I didn't know how to fix it, so I ran." I laughed. Bitterly. "You didn't run. You kicked me out." Her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen before. Regret. Guilt. I know, she whispered. We sat in silence. The rain had started, just a soft drizzle, but neither of us moved. You made me feel like a joke, I said finally. Like I was just entertainment for you and your rich friends. She looked at me, and for once, there was no smugness, no arrogance. Just a woman who knew she'd done damage she couldn't undo. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. But I want to try. To make things right. Maybe we could just talk. Get to know each other. Without lies. Without games. I stared at her. There was a version of me, a younger, more naive version, that would have said yes right there. But that version was gone now. He'd been left behind on her bedroom floor, when the truth spilled out like broken glass. Still, something in her eyes made me hesitate. Why now? I asked. Why bother? Because I haven't stopped thinking about you, she said quietly. And it's driving me crazy. It should have felt good, hearing that. It should have felt like victory. But it didn't. It felt sad. Because now I knew what kind of person she was. And I knew what kind of person I'd become if I let her back in. So I stood up. I don't think I can do this, I said. She looked up, eyes wide, vulnerable. Daniel. I'm not your game, I said. I'm not a mistake you can fix. I'm not a wound you can stitch just to feel better about yourself. Her face dropped. I think she knew then that I meant it. I walked away. And this time, I didn't look back. But here's the thing about walking away from someone like Evelyn Monroe. You might turn your back, but they have a way of staying in your life, whether you want them to or not. A few weeks later, I was cleaning tables at the cafe when a woman came in. Not Evelyn. Someone older. Dressed sharply. She walked straight to me. You're Daniel, right? She asked. Yeah, I said cautiously. Can I help you? She handed me a business card. I'm Claire Monroe. Evelyn's mother. I blinked. She gave me a tight smile. She told me about you. I'd like to speak with you. Over coffee. My treat. I didn't know what this was about, but curiosity got the better of me. We sat at a corner table. She ordered black coffee. I didn't order anything. She's a difficult girl, Claire said after a long pause. Always has been. Stubborn. Proud. But she's not heartless. Just confused. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I think you're the first person who ever told her no, and she's not used to that. I thought she'd move on. But she hasn't. She talks about you. Constantly. I didn't know what to say. Claire continued, Evelyn's father was never around. And I spoiled her. I thought money could protect her from pain. But now I see, it only made her careless with other people's hearts. She leaned forward. She's trying, Daniel. In her own way. I stared down at the table, the words swirling in my head like smoke. What do you do when someone who broke you wants to be whole again? Do you let them? Do you even believe them? I didn't sleep much that night after Evelyn's mother came into the cafe. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every word of our conversation like it was a scene from a movie I couldn't stop watching. She talks about you. Constantly. She's not used to being told no. She's trying, Daniel. In her own way. What did that even mean? Was I supposed to feel flattered? Guilty? Curious? Because I felt all of it, and more. And that terrified me. I had worked so hard to bury what happened. To put space between me and the humiliation, the heartbreak, the raw betrayal of being someone's bet. But now Evelyn was pushing her way back into my life like she had the right to rewrite the ending. And yet, some stupid part of me still wanted to see her. Not to forgive her. Not even to talk. I just wanted to look her in the eye and ask, did you really mean any of it? Even 1 second. The next day, I told myself I wasn't going to do anything reckless. That I'd go to work, make my tips, and move on like a grown man should. But at the end of my shift, I found myself walking. Not home. Not to the grocery store or the laundromat. I walked downtown. To her building. I didn't even realize I'd gone that far until I was standing in front of it. The high glass doors. The doorman in his crisp uniform. The lobby that smelled like fresh lilies and power. I shouldn't have been there. But I was. And then, as if fate had scripted it, the doors opened. And there she was. Evelyn. She looked different. Less polished. No heels, no lipstick. Just a hoodie, leggings, hair tied up in a messy bun. She looked more real than I'd ever seen her. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she stepped forward. "Daniel," she said, breathless. "What are you doing here?" I shook my head. "I don't know." We stood there in silence as the city moved around us. Then, she said, "Do you want to come up?" I should have said no. I wanted to say no. But I didn't. I nodded. Her apartment was just as I remembered. Sleek, elegant, too perfect. But something was different now. The couch was messy. There were dishes in the sink. An open bottle of wine on the counter with only one glass next to it. She led me to the living room and sat down. I stood, arms crossed, heart pounding. "I didn't expect to see you again," she said softly. "I didn't expect to come here." She looked up at me, eyes wide. "So why did you?" I hesitated. Then, because I need to understand. "Why me, Evelyn? Why go that far? I'm not part of your world. I never was. So what was the point?" She swallowed hard. "It started out as a joke," she said quietly. "A dumb conversation with two girls I've known since boarding school. They were mocking me, saying I always went for the same type. Rich, powerful, boring." She paused. "I told them I could make anyone fall for me. Anyone. And when I said it, I thought of you." I flinched. "So I was just a target." "At first," she admitted, "yes. But then, you weren't. You were kind. You listened. You weren't afraid of me, but you weren't trying to impress me either. You were just real." She looked away. And I hated that. Because it made me feel things I didn't want to feel. It made me question the version of myself I'd built over the years. And when I realized I actually cared about you, I panicked. So I did the only thing I knew how to do, I pushed you away. Brutally. I stood there, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. "That night broke me," I said. "I know," she whispered. "It broke me too. Just in a different way." The room felt too small. Too quiet. I finally sat down across from her. "What do you want from me now?" I asked. "Because I can't go through that again. I won't." She looked me dead in the eye. "I want a second chance. Not as a game. Not as a bet. As two people who screwed things up but still see something worth saving." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because deep down, I still wanted her too. I hated that. I hated that no matter how badly she'd hurt me, I still felt something when she looked at me like that. Like I was more than just some waiter. Like I was the only person in the room. But how do you trust someone who shattered your trust the first time? "Let me show you who I really am," she said. "Not the version they know. The version you saw." And I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. So I made a choice. Not a promise. Not a commitment. Just a choice to see where this went. "All right," I said. "But you're not getting another chance to break me." She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Fair." Over the next few weeks, we started talking. Slowly. Carefully. We didn't jump into anything. No dates. No big gestures. Just late-night phone calls. Walks in the park. Quiet coffee shop conversations. She told me things she said she'd never told anyone. About her father leaving when she was 10. About her mother's impossible standards. About how every relationship she'd ever had was more about appearances than connection. And I told her about my brother, who stopped speaking to me after I dropped out of college. About my dad's drinking. About the nights I lay awake wondering if my life would ever mean more than tips and trays. We were two people trying to start again. From scratch. And for a while, it felt like maybe, just maybe, we could. Until the night I found the group chat. It was accidental. She was in the kitchen cooking, yes, Evelyn Monroe cooking, and I was helping with the music, trying to pair something chill with the smell of garlic and olive oil. Her phone buzzed. I picked it up from the counter without thinking. Thought it might be her mom. But it wasn't. It was a message from a group called The Board. And I wish I hadn't opened it. Because what I saw ripped me open all over again. A screenshot of me. Sitting on her balcony. Smiling. Captioned, "He still thinks she actually likes him." Unbelievable. Followed by a dozen laughing emojis. And her name, right there. Laughing too. Evelyn, at least this time I'm winning the bet. I stared at the screen, my chest hollowing out again like it did that first morning. She walked in, holding 2 plates. Saw the phone in my hand. And everything stopped. Her smile faded the instant she saw my face. The plates in her hands trembled slightly, and she slowly set them down on the table like she was handling glass that might shatter, though it was clear something already had. I didn't say a word. I just held up her phone, screen still glowing, the message still open, the laughter still echoing in my ears even though the room was dead silent. She looked at the screen, then at me. Her lips parted, but no words came out. I thought this time was different, I finally said, my voice low and cracked, like it had been dragged across gravel. "You looked me in the eye. You told me you cared. And the whole time, you were laughing with them." "No," she said quickly, stepping forward. "Daniel, no. You don't understand." "I understand plenty." "It's not what it looks like," she said, panic rising in her voice. "That message, it's old. From weeks ago. Before we started again." My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might black out. "Then why didn't you leave the group chat?" I snapped. "Why didn't you tell them to stop? Why didn't you tell me?" She took a shaky breath. "Because I was scared. I knew what it looked like. I knew if you ever saw it, you'd never believe me again." "You're right. I don't." She reached for me, but I stepped back. "I trusted you," I said. "Again. After everything." "I know," she said, her voice breaking. "And I don't expect you to forgive me. But please, just listen. That message, it was real, yes. But it was before I realized what I felt for you was real, too." I stared at her, jaw clenched. "Real?" I said bitterly. "If it was real, you wouldn't be talking about me like I'm some pathetic stray dog you're keeping around to win points." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I left that world behind for you, Daniel. I stopped answering them. I haven't seen those people in weeks. They mocked me when they found out I was serious about you. That message, it was them, trying to drag me back." I wanted so badly to believe her. But it was too late. Because even if she'd changed, the damage had been done. Again. And the second betrayal always hurts worse than the first. I turned, grabbed my jacket, and walked out of her apartment without saying another word. She called after me, once, twice, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. Not this time. I spent the next few days in a kind of emotional paralysis. I didn't go to work. I didn't call my friends. I didn't turn on the TV or answer my phone. I just lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, wondering how the same person could fool me twice. And wondering how I could be so stupid to let her. I thought back to that night on her balcony, where I'd looked out at the city lights and felt, for the first time in years, like I was someone worth loving. Like I belonged. But now I knew the truth. I had only ever been a project. An experiment. A sick little game for a woman who had grown bored of her perfect, privileged life. I didn't hear from her for a week. And then, suddenly, she was everywhere again. I walked into the cafe one morning, and there she was, sitting at the counter, hair down, no makeup, wearing the same hoodie from the night we reconnected. It looked like she hadn't slept. Neither had I. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. I don't think there's anything left to say. Then let me just sit here, she said. I won't say a word. I just want to be near you. I shook my head and walked past her. But she didn't leave. She came every day that week. Sat at the same stool, ordered the same drink, barely touched it. She didn't speak unless I did. And I didn't, at first. But on the fourth day, something broke in me. You're wasting your time, I muttered while wiping down the counter. She looked up at me. It's my time to waste. I let out a bitter laugh. Still stubborn, huh? She gave the smallest of smiles. You liked that about me once. And I hated that she was right. A few days later, I came home to find an envelope under my door. No name. No return address. Inside was a stack of printed screenshots. Messages. From Evelyn. To the board. Telling them to leave her alone. Telling them she didn't care what they thought anymore. Telling them she loved me. The last message was short. Just one line. You don't get to ruin this for me. I didn't know what to feel. Relief. Confusion. Hope. I sat on the floor, reading the messages again and again. And for the first time, I wondered. What if she really had changed? The next day, she didn't show up at the cafe. Or the day after. It was the first time in over a week that her seat was empty. And I felt something missing. I didn't want to admit it. But her absence left a hollow space I hadn't expected. That night, I took a cab to her building. I didn't even know why. I just knew I needed to see her. The doorman recognized me. He didn't stop me. When I knocked, no one answered. But the door was unlocked. I stepped inside, heart racing. Evelyn. I called out. No answer. The apartment was dark, quiet. The kind of quiet that wraps around you like fog. And then I saw her. On the couch, curled up under a blanket, a half-empty bottle of wine on the table beside her. She looked up, dazed. You came, she whispered. I sat down across from her, suddenly unsure of myself. You left the messages. She nodded. I wanted you to know. I wasn't lying. Not this time. I took a deep breath. I believe you. Her eyes widened. But, I said, that doesn't mean I trust you yet. She sat up slowly. Then let me earn it. I looked at her for a long time. And for the first time, I saw not the woman who had broken me, but the woman who had broken herself trying to fix us. I'm not promising anything, I said. I'm not asking you to, she replied. We sat there in silence. Not enemies. Not lovers. Just two broken people trying to rebuild something fragile and rare. That night, I stayed. Not in her bed. Not even on the couch beside her. I just sat in the chair across from her while she fell asleep. Quiet, peaceful, no masks. And for the first time since this whole thing began, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we still had a story left to tell. One that wasn't about lies. One that wasn't about bets. One that might actually be about love. I didn't sleep much that night, but it wasn't like the other sleepless nights I'd had, the ones full of rage or confusion or replaying every awful thing she said to me. This one was quiet. Thoughtful. Tense in a different way. I watched Evelyn sleep on the couch, wrapped in that old gray blanket, her face finally at peace. I wondered how many nights she'd cried alone here. How many nights she stared at her phone hoping I'd call. If she had truly changed, or if I was still clinging to the version of her I wanted her to be. It was easier when I hated her. But now. I didn't. Not fully. And that scared me. In the morning, she opened her eyes and saw me still sitting there. She blinked a few times, then smiled, small, unsure, but real. You stayed, she said, her voice still thick with sleep. I did. She sat up slowly, pushing hair out of her face. Why? I shrugged. Because I wanted to believe you. And maybe. I still do. She nodded, and for a while, we didn't say much. She made coffee. I helped her feed her overwatered, barely alive houseplants. It was awkward and quiet and almost normal. Like we were two people trying to learn how to be around each other again. But that didn't mean it was easy. Because trust doesn't grow back like hair or fingernails. It takes effort. And pain. And time. Over the next few weeks, we moved slowly. No labels. No grand declarations. We just spent time. Sometimes in her apartment. Sometimes at my place. Sometimes at the park, where we'd sit on opposite ends of a bench and talk about our worst memories and our best mistakes. She started helping out at a local women's shelter. Volunteering. Something she said she'd always wanted to do but never had the guts for. I used to be afraid of being seen as soft, she told me once. Now I realize that's where strength starts. I saw a different Evelyn now. One who wasn't perfect. Who stumbled, admitted when she was wrong, and didn't try to cover her pain with sarcasm or lipstick. And I started changing too. I applied to culinary school, something I'd once told myself was too expensive, too far-fetched, too not for people like me. She didn't offer to pay for it. I didn't ask. But she encouraged me. Helped me prep for the interview. Believed in me in a way no one ever had. And somehow, we grew closer. Not just in the way lovers do, but in the way partners do. We cooked dinner together. We argued about movie endings. She fell asleep with her head on my chest and whispered that she was scared of how much she loved me. I said I was scared too. But I didn't run. And then, things shifted again. It started small. A text from one of her old friends. Then another. Then a phone call she stepped outside to take. She told me she was ignoring them. That she had nothing left to say. But something in her eyes looked distant. Guarded. One night, we were watching a movie, and her phone buzzed. She turned it face down on the couch without looking. I asked, "Everything okay?" She smiled, too quickly. Yeah. Just some nonsense. But I felt it, that wall creeping back up. The next day, I came over after work and found her dressed to the nines. Red lipstick. Black heels. A sleek coat I'd never seen before. I froze. "Where are you going?" I asked. She looked startled. "I thought I'd be back before you got here." "Answer the question, Evelyn." She hesitated. "There's a charity gala. One of my mother's friends insisted I make an appearance. I didn't want to go, but you dressed up," I cut in. "You curled your hair. You planned it." She stepped toward me. "Daniel, please. This isn't like before. I'm not going for them. I'm going because I still have one foot in that world, and if I ever want to change it, I have to step inside." I stared at her, hurt boiling just beneath the surface. "Are you sure this isn't about being seen? About being admired again?" Her face fell. "Do you think so little of me?" I looked away. I don't know what to think anymore. She came closer, gently took my hand. "Then come with me." I blinked. "What?" "Come with me. As my date. As my truth. If I'm going to face them, I want to do it with you beside me." I wanted to say yes. But I wasn't sure I was ready to be dragged back into her world. "Let me think about it," I said quietly. She nodded. "Okay." That night, I sat at home staring at my phone. I could picture her there, under those chandeliers, surrounded by the same people who once laughed at me behind her back. Who turned my pain into a punchline. I imagined them whispering, "She went back to the waiter." And her, maybe pretending again. Smiling for the crowd. Apologizing for bringing someone like me into the frame. And just like that, the doubt crept back in. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I opened my door, and there she was. Evelyn. Still in her gown, mascara smudged under her eyes, barefoot. "I left halfway through," she said. I couldn't stand it. I opened the door wider. She walked in and collapsed onto my couch like she'd been holding herself together all night. "They asked me where you were," she whispered. "And I told them you didn't belong there." I tensed. "Not because you're not good enough," she added quickly. Because they're not. I sat down beside her. I'm tired of trying to fit into a world that punishes kindness and rewards cruelty. I want something real. I want you. But if being with me means always looking over your shoulder, then maybe I don't deserve you. Her voice cracked. I've hurt you, Daniel. I can't take that back. But I can spend every day forward proving that I'm more than what I used to be. I stared at her, my chest tight. I don't want to be someone you prove something to, I said. Then let me be someone who chooses you. Not for a bet. Not for approval. But because loving you makes me want to be better. We sat there, the morning light bleeding through the windows. I don't need your world, I finally said. I never did. But I want you. If you're ready to leave that world behind. She nodded slowly. I already have. I just didn't realize it until last night. We didn't kiss. We didn't say, I love you. We just sat in silence, leaning into each other. Because sometimes, the loudest declarations are made without words. And for the first time, I believed we had a future. Not because it would be easy. But because we were finally building it together. Things were finally steady. Not perfect, but honest. Evelyn started spending more nights at my place than hers. She'd bring her laptop, work from my kitchen table, and we'd take turns making dinner. Some nights we laughed over burned pasta, other nights we sat in silence, comfortable silence, just existing together. I started culinary school. Got in on a partial scholarship and picked up extra shifts at a local restaurant to cover the rest. It wasn't glamorous, and I was exhausted half the time, but it felt like purpose. Evelyn was proud. She came to my first practical exam, standing at the back of the room with flowers in her arms, smiling like I'd won a Nobel Prize. You were made for this, she whispered afterward. And for a moment, I believed it too. For once, life felt good. Which, of course, is exactly when it started to fall apart. It started with a knock on the door. Not hers, this one came at 10 p.m., unexpected, impatient. When I opened it, a man in a blazer stood there, eyes sharp and familiar. Daniel Pierce. Yeah. He handed me a thick envelope. You've been served. I stared at the papers. What is this? Cease and desist, he said. From the Winthrop family. They claim you're exploiting Miss Evelyn Winthrop's public image for personal gain. What? I blinked. I'm not, what are you talking about? The men shrugged. Just the messenger. Good luck. And then he was gone. Evelyn looked like she'd been punched when I showed her the documents. My mother, she muttered, running her fingers through her hair. This has her written all over it. Your mother. But she's never even met me. She doesn't need to. She hates anything she can't control. And she thinks you're a threat to my name. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They're accusing me of using you. Of slandering your family name. Evelyn, this could ruin my career before it even starts. I'll fix it, she said instantly. I'll talk to them. No, I said sharply. You don't get to protect me from your past. I need to face this. But they'll twist your words. So let them, I said. I won't live in fear of your name. I won't let it define me, or us. She nodded, but her hands were shaking. A week later, I met with the Winthrops' legal team. They were cold, surgical, and made it clear that my association with Evelyn was an embarrassment to the family. That I'd corrupted her reputation, that I was beneath her stature. I sat there, heart pounding, as they dissected my life like I was a parasite clinging to their legacy. And Evelyn. She wasn't there. At the last minute, she'd texted, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I'll make it right another way. I stared at that message longer than I stared at the legal documents. Because that was the moment I realized something had cracked in her again. And this time, I didn't know if we could patch it. When I got home that night, she was waiting for me. Her eyes red, her hands trembling. I tried to stand up to them, she whispered. I told them I loved you. That I didn't care what they thought. And they froze my accounts. I blinked. What? They control most of my trust fund. They cut me off. No access. No money. Nothing. I sat down slowly. So now, what? You're just like me. She looked up, hurt flickering in her eyes. That's not what this is about. Isn't it? I said bitterly. You were fine standing by me when it cost you nothing. But the second there was risk. I lost everything for you, she shouted. No, I said. You lost everything because you were raised to think love was a transaction. And when it stopped being convenient, you panicked. She turned away, silent. I should have stopped. I should have taken her in my arms and said we'd figure it out. But I didn't. I went to the bedroom, shut the door, and let the silence stretch like a blade between us. The next morning, she was gone. No note. No text. Nothing. Just a cup of cold coffee on the table and the blanket folded neatly on the couch. I waited 3 days before I called her. She didn't answer. A week passed. Then 2. I stopped eating. I couldn't focus at work. My hands trembled during practicals, and I barely scraped by. My mentor pulled me aside one day and said, "You're cooking like someone trying to forget something. That only works until the fire catches up to you." He was right. I was unraveling. Then, one night, I got a call. A number I didn't recognize. But when I answered, her voice cracked through the line. "Daniel." I closed my eyes. "Where are you?" "I'm in Vermont. With an old friend. I needed time. I needed space to think. And running away helped." "No," she whispered. But I didn't know how to stay either. Every time I looked at you, I saw how much I'd hurt you. And every time you looked at me, I saw the weight of everything I ruined. I didn't say anything. "Do you hate me?" she asked. I swallowed hard. "No." "Then why does it feel like we're already over?" "Because maybe we were. Because love without trust is just a slow goodbye." "Come home," I said. Silence. "I don't know if I can," she admitted. "Then don't come back to the old version of us," I said. "Come back to this version. The one that still wants to try. That doesn't need wealth or family names. Just you and me." A long pause. Then, softly, "I'll think about it." I hung up and stared at the wall. The silence in my apartment felt different now. Not lonely, just hollow. Like something had been carved out of me and carried away. I didn't know if she'd come back. But for the first time, I knew I'd still be standing if she didn't. Because I wasn't that broken waiter anymore. I was someone rebuilding from scratch, not chasing approval, not waiting to be picked. If Evelyn returned, I'd welcome her with open arms. But if she didn't, then I'd walk forward on my own. Not because I stopped loving her, but because I finally started loving myself. 3 months passed. 3 long, quiet months. At first, I expected her to call. Every time my phone lit up, my heart jumped. I checked every message twice, replayed old voicemails like songs I couldn't delete. But time has a way of softening even the deepest wounds, or at least teaching you how to breathe around them. So I lived. Not perfectly. Not heroically. Just, simply. I woke up early, prepped ingredients at school, studied late into the night, and worked weekends in a tiny bistro downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I even started smiling again. Small ones at first, then real ones. The pain didn't leave, but it no longer led me by the hand. Evelyn faded into the background of my thoughts, not gone, just quieter. Like a painting I loved once but had to hang in the hallway because looking at it every day hurt too much. Then, one Friday evening, everything changed again. I was plating a beetroot risotto at the bistro when my manager leaned in from the kitchen door. "You've got someone asking for you out front." I frowned. "A customer?" "She says she's not eating unless the chef talks to her personally." I sighed. "Another food blogger or picky diner, probably." I wiped my hands on my apron and stepped into the warm glow of the restaurant. And there she was. Evelyn. Wearing a simple black dress, hair pulled back, no makeup. Just her. Exactly how I remembered her in the moments that mattered most. Not as the girl in heels or the heiress in pearls, but the woman I woke up next to, who burned toast and cried at dog commercials. She stood as soon as she saw me. We stared at each other for a second, then two, before she broke the silence. "Hi," she whispered. I cleared my throat. "Hey. Do you have a minute?" I glanced around. "I'm kind of." "It won't take long," she said quickly. I needed to say something. I nodded and motioned toward the small bench outside. The street was quiet. The evening air cool. I sat down, arms crossed, heart pounding. "I wasn't sure you'd want to see me," she said, sitting beside me, her voice barely audible over the hum of traffic. "You disappeared." "I know. You promised you'd try." "I did try," she said, looking down at her hands. "But I was trying to be the person you needed me to be instead of the person I needed to become first." I didn't reply. She took a breath. "I was always running, into parties, into expectations, into people who made me feel safe even when they were awful. And then I met you, and I didn't know what to do with real love." I looked at her, and she was crying now. Quietly, without drama. Just silent tears running down her cheeks. "I wasn't ready," she continued. "And I thought if I stayed, I'd ruin you too. So I ran again. I went to Vermont, then upstate, took a job at a nonprofit, lived in a tiny cottage with no heating. I washed dishes, answered phones. And for the first time, I learned what it means to earn something. I wanted to speak, but the lump in my throat kept me silent." She turned to face me. "I don't want anything from you, Daniel. I didn't come here to be forgiven or rescued. I just came to say thank you. For loving me when I didn't know how to love myself. For seeing something in me I couldn't see. You helped me become someone I like." She stood up, wiping her eyes. "I'll go now. I just needed you to know." And then she turned. Walked to the edge of the sidewalk. And that should have been it. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. "Wait," I said, my voice cracking. She stopped. Slowly turned. I stood up. Walked toward her. "You said you didn't come to be forgiven," I said. "But what if I already forgave you?" She blinked. "What if I spent every day since you left still setting a place for you in my heart?" "Daniel." I stepped closer. "I don't need you to be perfect. I never did. I just needed you to choose me. Not out of guilt or fear or rebellion. Just choose me because you want to." "I do," she whispered. "Then stay." We stood there for a moment, in the orange glow of the streetlight, the world frozen around us. Then she nodded. And I reached for her hand. That night, she didn't stay at my apartment. I didn't ask, and she didn't offer. But we sat at the park until 3 a.m., drinking lukewarm coffee and talking like we hadn't in years. Not about the past, not about blame, but about now. She told me about the small victories, learning how to fix a leaky faucet, cooking her first edible meal, reading poetry again. I told her about school, about burning a perfect steak in front of a Michelin-starred chef, about laughing so hard during a shift that I dropped a tray of wine. We talked like two people rediscovering each other. Slowly. Gently. Weeks passed. Then months. She didn't move in. We didn't rush anything. But we found our rhythm. We went to farmers' markets on Sundays. She taught me how to waltz in our socks on the living room floor. I helped her repaint her apartment, gray and soft blue, no more gold or velvet. She went back to school to study social work. I graduated from culinary school and got offered a co-ownership of the bistro I worked at. One night, after closing, I lit a single candle in the center of the restaurant and texted her, "Come over. Table for two." When she walked in, I served the first dish I'd ever cooked for her, a rustic pasta with rosemary and lemon. She smiled as she took a bite. Still the best I've ever had. I sat down across from her. We didn't need to say much. Everything important was already on the table. Do I believe in fate? No. I believe in second chances earned the hard way. I believe in people who leave and find their way back, not because of magic or destiny, but because they grow. Evelyn broke me once. But sometimes, the breaking is what makes room for the real thing. Not the fantasy. Not the chase. Just two flawed people, choosing each other again and again, without bets, without masks. And that, I've learned, is the kind of love that lasts.